Grandad, look what we found. I thought it was a jellyfish, but it isn't. What is it?
You've done a very good job today. Thank you for bringing this to me. It's been so many years since I saw plastic in the sea. When I was
young and full of life to live, with so many things to be, we were confronted by a crisis, one that we called the emergency. Let me take you back to that story of when all life was nearly over. Back then, when I was your age, I was a young, enthused beachcomber. I would stroll along the sand dunes with a task never complete. I had an eye for trash and treasures with sand and sea foam at my feet. Each year the world was getting faster, always pushing for the new, and so the trash I found in multitudes, although the treasures, they were few. We humans go through many phases. We always think we are so clever, and so we conjured up materials which were so strong they'd last forever. But every wrapper, each container, every appliance that we used, every garment of our clothing was only valued while still new. And when they weren't, they got shipped out of sight, well, out of sight for us. But their final dwelling resting place we all agreed not to discuss. In the early 21st century, from all the lessons that we'd learned, the science studied fresh new data and reported back to us concerned. 70% of the Earth is ocean, so even though it wasn't planned to house the junk we'd no longer use for, it found its watery way off land. The tiny plastic microfibers were now consumed by tiny fish, and the food chain brought them back to us dressed up with garnish on our dish. A problem hidden is forgotten. It's just too easy to forget, but the beaches tried to warn us and washed up junk and fishing nets. Mother Nature is resilient. We know she's not the type to whine, but despite the offered warnings, we ignored her every time. So on the verge of cataclysm and the point of no return, the declaration passed of the emergency, and it demanded that we learn. It's why you don't see things like this today, why it feels so strange to me. We made a unanimous, conscious decision that we would heal our hurting sea. Single-use plastics were abandoned. There were hefty fines for dumping nets. Bad habits faded to memory, and we each vowed not to forget. New companies quickly blossomed to turn the things that once were waste into resources, now recycled to share with all the human race. And people freely chose that from then on they each would start to do their business with such places that led with ethics at their heart. And so the crisis was averted. And in a symbolic kind of way, the day we agreed to save our seas was coined Protect the Ocean Day. This here must be the final remnant
of that once feared emergency. But remember, it's not about how things were, but always about how things could be.